I just watched episode 4 of The Rings of Power, and I have to say that was probably my favorite episode so far. I feel like all the storylines are really moving forward now that everything's been set up. So onto my first point, I'm really glad we're brought back into Arondir's storyline almost immediately. I was a bit worried we weren't going to see who this mysterious villain Adar was until maybe the next episode, but they really just threw him right in your face. This elf-looking villain who had this scar on his face, but you could clearly distinguish those elf ears. So it kind of made him this mysterious but also really intriguing figure who you wanted to know more about. I thought the costuming was excellent and his performance was really strong as well. This brings me to my next point. That scene with Adar and the dying orc was really emotional and beautiful in a weird way. I haven't seen that kind of emotional connection between an orc and an elf or a human in any kind of Middle-earth setting. It is a bit of a weird feeling to see an orc crying or someone crying over an orc. I definitely have mixed feelings about the crying orc, but I did enjoy the scene. For this beautiful moment to be thrown on its head when Adar stabs the orc, I felt like that's the orc lifestyle that I'm much more aligned with. But I want to see more of these emotional orcs. I think it was kind of cute. Still in Orcville, I loved the scenes with Theo, and I'm really stoked how we're still in this horror sort of suspense genre when Theo is on screen. That one-shot take of him emerging from the well and escaping from all these orcs looking for him was pretty scary, very intense. Theo seems like a pretty complex character. On this one side, he has this bravery where he just went straight into that very haunted inn and his friend just abandoned him. But on the other side, you can tell that his motives are perhaps because he's drawn to power and the mystery of this sword. Point number 4, I'm loving Prince Durin's performance. Owen Arthur is doing a really great job, I think, getting into the emotional depth of that character. You really get a strong sense of what Prince Durin is about. He's very expressive, but you can tell that he's also a passionate and friendly character at the same time. A great example, when the mine falls and he dives in to go help his dwarf friends. Even though he's often angry at Elrond, you can tell that that anger comes from a place of friendship. He's obviously very offended by the fact that Elrond hasn't seen him for 20 years. On top of this, you've got him struggling with the expectations of his father. He really wants to maintain his relationship with Elrond and his friendship, while also being, I guess, the best son he can be. On to my final point. I'm really glad that the Numenor story arc has been resolved in terms of Galadriel and Miriel's conflict. I thought the drama between them was a lot stronger in this episode than last episode. Last episode felt a bit clunky, a little bit stiff at times, and I wasn't exactly drawn into the conflict between them. I think the introduction of the Palantir was a really interesting device to sort of set up this common ground between the two characters. It was awesome to see they both have this similar sense of impending doom when they see the possible doom of Numenor or Middle-earth entirely. I'm glad they had this resolution because at the same time Galadriel had felt like she hit a wall. I was worried that storyline had kind of hit a wall as well. Not to say that I wasn't enjoying Numenor itself, I just think that it was time for Galadriel to move on from there and the story to progress. I will say one thing, I don't know why they keep doing this like drinks on me and a round of drinks for everyone scene. We had the same thing with Halbrand in the tavern that felt like a kind of high school cafeteria scene. And at the same time, the diplomat character shouting drinks for everyone after his pretty awesome speech. It's just a weird thing they keep doing. It's a very cheesy piece of writing that I just think oversimplifies the mob and felt a bit cheesy, and I'm glad hopefully we won't see any more of that. It's time for my spoiler speculations. If you don't want to hear what I'm about to say, I suggest you stop watching right now. The scene with Celebrimbor and Elrond was interesting when Celebrimbor said to Elrond, "You look just like your father." Elrond's father said to Celebrimbor, "Your future may be in my son's hands." Celebrimbor is the character who forges the Rings of Power along with the One Ring. It's interesting to say that his future is bound to Elrond because Elrond is the one who sets the Fellowship out on their quest to destroy the ring. It's an interesting setup of Elrond and Celebrimbor, and it's a cool use of prophecy that I think is sort of showing how Elrond's fate is going to be very intertwined with the rings. All right, as I said, that was, I think, the strongest episode so far. Really glad they wrapped up a few loose ends. I think things are really moving now, so I'm very excited to see episode 5. See you next week.